Welcome back from lunch, everyone. How was your lunch? Thumbs up? Thumbs down? I thought it was really, really good. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to our next panel. Have you ever wondered about the true impact of a guiding hand or a supportive network in achieving your goals? Let's explore this question in our next session titled The Transformative Power of Mentoring, Coaching, and Peer Networks. Whether it's through the wisdom imparted by a mentor, the strategic guidance of a coach, or the supportive camaraderie of peers. This discussion is a deep dive into how these powerful tools can dramatically shape our personal and professional trajectories. Let's go ahead and welcome our moderator, Patrick Tamaklo, President and Chief Executive Officer of Global Reach Leadership Institute, and our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause.
Hey, all right. Are you excited to be here?
Yeah.
Right? It's exciting. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. And we want to get started right off the bat by giving you guys a gift, right? And the gift is that our first speaker is going to start with, over to you there, Christabel.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So wonderful to be here, guys. And I am Christabel Joseph, the founder of High Performers. It is a community I built last year to really help and engage entrepreneurs along their business growth and their journey. And so it is, with that, I want to lead us into something that has helped so many entrepreneurs that I know, so many business owners, to really help them really visualize what it is that they want to achieve in this life. So I'm going to walk us through a little bit of a breath work. So I don't know if you guys have done breath work before, but I know that you guys all breathe. So that's a good sign. Let's start with coming into the room here. And if you guys want to just close your eyes, we can get everyone to close your eyes and just start breathing a little bit deeper, a little bit slower, with more intention. Just really feel that inhale, that exhale. And I want you guys to start focusing your attention to your heart. Okay? Now imagine that your heart is doing the breathing for you. So as you inhale, your heart is inhaling. As you exhale, your heart is exhaling. As you're feeling that beautiful warm sensation in your chest, I want you to start allowing your imagination to take you to what it is your dream vision for your life is. I want you to let go of any limiting beliefs, any fears, anything that's holding you back. What is that dream life, that vision that is given only to you? What if everything was available and possible for you, which it is, in this lifetime? What would your life look like? Where would you be? Who would be in your corner? What does your business look like? What are your values? Are you traveling? Reaching different destinations? Meeting new people? Co-creating with communities around the world? What does that ultimate dream vision look like? I want you to continue breathing that into your heart center. Really feel any sensations that come up for you. Really feel that and take it all in. I want you to really ground that feeling. And whenever you feel called, you guys can open up your eyes and come back to the space here. And so what I do in my business is I create those visions that you all just had. I allow people to really step into anything that is possible and really allow people to fully be empowered to know that there is nothing limiting us from creating our dream vision, our dream life here. And if we only have one life and we have everything available for us, why are we not taking full advantage of everything that is provided here for us? And so with my program, with High Performers, it's all about the right people, the right connections, the resources, just the community, the support system to really help you along your entrepreneur journey, to make all of those dreams, no matter how large, no matter how grand scale, and bring them to fruition.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christabel, because you see, that was an introduction to what coaching practice is about, right? We talk about the transformative power of coaching, mentorship, and peer networks. And mindfulness is part of that exceptional practice where people get a chance to experience what we just experienced with Christabel, right? So as you heard in the introduction, I'm Hatama Kaloa, CEO of Global Reach Leadership Institute, and also the founder of the C4I Group, where what we do is get people who desire to make transformative change in their lives connect with us so we can make a difference in their life, whether it's the leader in an organization or it's just just an independent person who wants to make a difference. GLI has been an international platform for a while. We've been working with organizations in the government sector as well as the business sector. And what we try to do is to make sure that we bridge the gap between, in terms of mindfulness, between where people are mentally, socially, and physically. A lot of leaders in the C-suite have challenges with stress. It tends to be the place where you are alone. You don't really know who else to turn to. And that affects the decisions that you make. So as a coach, mentor, and trainer, what we do with GLI is come to these organizations and try to bridge that gap with them and make them more impactful in their businesses. Anywhere from startups to government organizations. We've done quite a few of them. So that's my excitement. That's what brings me, or that's what qualifies me to be able to talk on this particular topic. And we'll go straight to a few questions that I just want to ask the panel here as we continue on this, because the audience is really looking for things that they can do when it comes to transformative power of coaching, mentoring, and of course, peer networks. So first to you, Christabel, I know that you are passionate about bringing people into a transformative life, to bring people's businesses to where they need to be. And so what I'm going to ask you really is the very first question, which I know you're dying to ask probably, is why is it so important to have a balance between the masculine and feminine, right, aspects or energies of coaching?
I love this question. Masculine and feminine energies. I feel like right now in the business world, everyone is really focused on how things have been done, all the strategies, all the structure of the masculine, which is, of course, it is needed, it is required to build a foundation. That is the masculine energy in our presence, in relationships, and in the universal energy. That is the law of the universal energy. But to also implement what that feminine energy looks like and to create the space for us to really flow into our creative genius. That is, we are creators. We are human beings who are in this life, and as creators, we are here to create. And what does that look like? When it comes to business, it is having the fundamentals of the structure that is allowing us to then step into the creative so that we can balance and flow through and following the intuition that's there when it comes to being a woman. So really tapping into the feminine side and also relying on the strong fundamental side of the masculine energy. So I think both are very much needed. And I think actually the feminine side is usually missed when it comes to leadership, when it comes to creating the strategies of the business. And it's something that I really strive to integrate in a lot of my practices, because a lot of us women now that are stepping into leadership positions, it is very much needed for us to be empowered and to feel like, yes, like this is our flow and this is what is required for us to get to that next level, and not to feel like we're, it's like putting an ocean in a cup. And that is something that it's impossible. The vastness of the ocean is what it is to be a woman, what it is to also be a man. But it is like we are not meant to fit into the structure and the confinements of a box, right? And it is meant to be expanded and expressed through the flow of the ocean, and to really ride out those tides through the balance between the feminine and the masculine.
Wow, that's such a powerful, mind. It's a mind-blowing thing to think that we have to have balance between the masculine and the feminine. We typically tend to take that for granted, right? But anybody on the panel have any comment about that? Because I know that you probably want to say something about that. We are fortunate to have two ladies on the panel here, which is indeed a treat for us. Being able to have this, female energy is what I'll call it, right? Be able to kind of be in leadership positions when it comes to coaching and mentorship. So, do you have anything to say to that, Samantha?
Yeah, so first of all, my name is Samantha. I can introduce myself later, but I'm speaking on behalf of the legal sector. When I think of a lawyer, and I'm still in a space where I'm still aspiring to be a lawyer, I imagine someone who's on trial, who's speaking in front of an audience, someone who is engaging a jury and making a point and being specific in everything they're saying. And learning how to be assertive in a very specific way is something that not a lot of women are taught. I would say that when I thought of what a lawyer is, that's what I imagined. And even though through my work with domestic violence victims and women facing child custody cases, addiction, eviction, really heavy cases like that, it does require a lot of empathy and understanding. But what is required of you in the legal sphere is super well-roundedness. So you have to be assertive, you have to be able to speak your mind, you have to be able to speak over others sometimes when appropriate, or when they're saying something that's completely disrespectful, and you also have to be able to be there for someone on someone else's behalf. And to be women in law, a lot of the times only one of those skills is encouraged. I don't know about the other women in this room, but I myself, along with a lot of my peers, we felt this energy of kind of being encouraged to submit or encouraged to leave space for others, to be empathetic and understanding, but very few of us have been encouraged to be assertive and to argue and to not be afraid of arguing or being afraid of being the bad guy. And that is everything that law is. Law is being unafraid of saying what people don't want to hear. And it's important to teach that regardless of gender.
Wow, that is so awesome. And I'll segue to into you there. Please, Samantha, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and just tell us how you are using this transformative power of coaching, mentoring, and peer networks in what you do at Berkeley.
So my name is Samantha Nelson. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and I am going to graduate from UC Berkeley with a legal studies major and public policy minor in 2 months. This past year, I was the president of two law-centered organizations on campus, Berkeley CAPI and another organization that I co-founded called Bridge to Justice Initiative. So with the Bridge to Justice Initiative, it is a trauma-informed legal aid program. Right now we're a student organization and we're hoping to become an independent nonprofit in the future. But basically we seek to provide legal resources for low-income litigants in the Bay Area of California, give them referrals to pro bono attorneys in the area, and if they want to seek employment, then help them build a resume, build a cover letter, and basic interview skills. Of course, those are all my hopes and dreams. But I also led an 8-week leadership development course with my other organization. And so peer networks for me, especially through the other organization, they've taught me that being a peer is understanding and talking to someone like they're on your level. Speaking in the language that they understand, being empathetic, talking to them, and not acting like you're above or below them in some way. And that is super, super essential in law. A lot of the times when litigants enter the law, they enter with an understanding that the lawyers are not on their side, or that the law doesn't want to see them succeed. And the very purpose of a lawyer is to argue on their behalf. You are arguing for somebody else. You are their advocate. So at the very least, you should make them feel like you are on their side. So I guess speaking with peers and student organizations at Berkeley, I think it's especially important in law because the law is so unattainable already. Lawyers are so expensive. They're on suits and ties. It's very, they feel a little bit untouchable sometimes, a little bit impersonal. And the law is very structured, very rigid, and sometimes very unforgivable. So feeling like you're understood and you're heard is everything for a litigant to trust you and to tell you everything that you can eventually use in a case. I've had experiences working with Berkeley Law where having litigants feel heard and trust me and just feeling comfortable enough to tell me things is exactly what got their success in the end. So peer networks are everything. And
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Yes. Were you going to say something, Brian?
Yeah. You bring up an incredible point. Peer networking is not about you being above someone else or you being someone's boss or speaking to people who are bosses of a certain segment or certain people or certain organizations. It's such an important point because peer networking is, to me, it's a confidence booster, not in the form of, like I said, leading people or telling people what to do. It's a confidence booster because, and one of my mentors told me this was, if you are around people who have kind of the same expertise or the same subject matter expertise, sometimes it's good to be around them because they're going to show you're going the right way. You're going down the right path. Sometimes when you're back at work, sometimes when you're fighting fires, and sometimes when you're speaking with your employees and you're strategizing with your employees or your team, which I like to call them, if you're strategizing with your team, sometimes you're in the weeds, you're stuck in the weeds, and you're not really seeing a strategic viewpoint of what that looks like. So if you take that step back sometimes and you do the peer networking, knowing that you need that team and you're speaking to other individuals, they can know what you're doing, they can see the strategy, and they can tell you, you know what, you're going the right way, try this or try this, and you can go back refreshed, you can go back to the workshop, and you can really make some damage there in a good way.
Awesome.
Yeah. So one other thing you might want to think of is define what is a peer. There are different kinds of peers. If you believe in God, you have this God. God is a kind of a peer, but that's a peer that you can't interact with physically day to day. I have other peers that are people that I look up to, like John Maxwell. These are people who I can kind of reach, but I don't call them on day to day. I don't pick up the phone and say, "Hey, John, what's going on today?" But then there are your peers among us who we work with, and those peers are your peers, but they're also their peers. So you are a peer to those people as well. So there's three classifications of peers: who we relate to, and who we idolize. I idolize Gandhi and Madame Roosevelt. So these are people. This is three different classifications.
Certainly, and I'd like to speak back on that, and then I'll do the question to you, asking for just yourself, Jeff. But when we're talking about the chief executive officer realm, for instance, what kind of peers are we looking at, right? For instance, for me, I'm part of the C-suite network. Okay, my local place, Virginia, and of course, I used to be part of the C-suite network of the United States, which I believe led by Jeff Hazlett. For instance, there are several peers there. They all are CEOs, right, or business owners. Now, that kind of network is something where you go to a place where everybody understands one another, right? You have the same challenges, you have the same problems that you have to deal with, and you have the same probably strategic ambitions that you want to leverage, right? So when you look at a peer network, you look at a network where you know that you can go to and be able to talk to somebody who understands your pain. And I think that is where we're talking about the transformative power of that becomes where you are able to then leverage the expertise and the knowledge of those people who might not necessarily be in your particular kind of business, but have the same kind of mindset of being a visionary to be able to excel in their businesses. So finding an organization like that is able to think like you do, be able to understand the pain you're going through is what peer networking in my mind is, right? So I'll segue to you there, Jeff. Why don't you introduce yourself and just tell us how the transformative power of coaching, mentoring, and networking is happening in your life and how you're being able to bring transformation to organizations.
Yeah, so, I want to start with a little story. When I was 10 years old, a good friend of mine who I knew since I was 3, his name was Christopher. He was tragically killed by a drunk driver. And I was devastated. I loved him dearly. He's a brother I never had. In my sorrow, I went to Baltimore with my grandmother, and she took me to Washington. And when we were there, we saw the White House and the monument. But what made the most lasting impression on me was a trip to the National Portrait Gallery. And there was an exhibit honoring the Roosevelt. And as I stood before the statue of Eleanor Roosevelt looking at her in confidence, my grandmother read to me her words. When you cease to make a contribution begins to die. When you cease to make a contribution, you begin to die. And those words echoed through my life. And everything I do from that moment on had to have a level of contribution, which is, and to me, the most important thing in my life. I made a promise to my friends and to me that I would do that. I have had a lot of trials and tribulations in my life. I've been a broadcast engineer for 30 years and been one of the leading broadcast engineers in the country. Several years ago, I decided to redefine my life. And I've been volunteering since I was a little kid. I've with Red Cross since 9/11, Hurricane Katrina and Sandy. I've been with Habitat for Humanity, Big Brothers. I volunteered at a Sikh temple twice a week. So volunteering is a very big part of my life. And I wanted to take that structure and develop a company called the Preparedness Network. And there's a flyer on your desk like this that tells about what some of the things we do. And we do three kinds of things. We do disaster preparedness training. So we teach you how your company can survive and thrive on a disaster. And then we also teach you, fires, floods, earthquake, active shooters, stuff like that. We also teach you how to build a corporate service of volunteering within your company. For the company, the three most important things are retaining your best employees, finding the best employees to work for your company, and building your brand. And nothing does that like volunteering. And when employees volunteer, they get a sense of worth accomplishment, makes them better employees. So it makes them more comfortable and less likely to do bad things at work. Employees want to work for a company not only with a high potential for margins, but a high potential at helping the marginalized. And when customers look for a company, if you identify with the things that they identify with and helping people that they believe in, they're more apt to do business with you. So I took these two things and I underlined it with the John Maxwell Leadership Program. John Maxwell has been a leader in leadership ever. He has over 70 books. I also underline it with Dale Carnegie and some of the other stuff I learned from Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar, who I had lunch with when I was a little kid. It was a very wonderful time. But the thing about leadership is, and John Maxwell says this, everything rises and falls with leadership. If you're not inventing more leaders in your business, if you're not inventing more peers in your business is dying. We have a thing in a business called sharks and minnows. And you're either a shark or you're a minnow. If you're a minnow, you just coast around, and hopefully no shark eats you, and you just coast around and do your job, do the minimal work. And the sharks eat all their sharks and attack everybody else, and we have an adversarial relationship within the corporate environment. So we need to break those down and say, hey, we need to develop things how you can build together and create leadership within that, and build leadership and change the mindset of the leaders within your organization to build leaders that build other leaders that build more leaders. And that's how you do it.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm reminded of what you said about, your grandmother and John, who was a mutual mentor for us, as a John Master certified coach and trainer. I had asked him once during a mentorship session, I said, how do I really get my team on board? I feel like I'm always like 10 steps ahead of them. I'm trying to, how do I bring them along? And then he says, you gotta be close enough to lead them, but far ahead enough to bring them along so they can catch up.
Absolutely.
So then I'm scratching my head going, wow. So it's a mindset, right? And when you stop adding value to others, then, like you were saying, then you're nothing to them.
Right. You lead from behind and in front and beside.
Yeah, and beside them. So that is definitely important. Adding value to others has to be the core of that. So going right, along there with, a question for you there, Jeff. And I want you to answer that before we give Brian a chance to say something. I just want you to just let us know, in your opinion, what are the most common challenges faced by peer coaches?
One of the most common issues with peer coaches is that they think they're above their people they're working with, and it's not about being I'm this authority, I need to teach you. It's about being a partner. And so if you're a partner with the people you work with and help them grow, and like you said, lead from three angles, lead from behind, front, and beside. If you're going up a hill and there's no one with you, you're a hiker, not a leader. You know, you've got to lead with people, and you've got to let people know, and you've got to learn from them. Everybody who I coach, I learn from. I learn from them. I learned from my friends here on the panel when we had our discussion. Things I learned from everybody. And when you learn and absorb, that's great. And the most important thing you could do is have other people teach what you taught them. Because when we hear something, we retain maybe 5-10%. But when we teach that, we learn 90% plus what we do when we teach. So that's the most important thing. When I teach people, when I go into my disaster preparedness training or my active shooter training or my volunteer training, I teach other people to teach other people.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Now, give a chance to Brian. Brian, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us how that transformative power of coaching, mentorship, and network is happening in your life. Introduce yourself a little bit, and then let us go right into the question there for you. Once you're able to do that, is tell us how that also translates into servant leadership, right? So go ahead, Brian.
Actually, Michael's going to introduce himself first.
Oh,
we
okay,
switched
sure,
by accident.
Mike.
But I just wanted to touch down on what Jeff was saying. One little quick snippet. We live in a time today where people are actually keeping their word, and they're leaving the incumbent. They're leaving a company, a product, for something that has a greater purpose. For something that has a greater meaning, a shared purpose, a shared vision. So it's really interesting and amazing that you guys are all talking about this, because that's what matters today. People are actually leaving their companies, not for $1 anymore, not for $10,000 anymore. They're actually leaving their companies now to be a part of something that they can share. And that's called shared leadership, shared vision. But that's kind of what you guys are talking about. And it's just so amazing to see it actually happen, where, you know, you'll see in a resume in the past, like 10 years ago, it would look like, wait, this person's been here, they've been at 5 different places in the last 10 years. But now it's different now. The game's changed now. Now it's like, okay, well, maybe they were looking for something to be a part of. Maybe they were looking for something to really like maximize their strengths.
Yeah.
Right. And Drucker says, you know, ignore your weaknesses. Right. But that's the most powerful thing. It's being a part of that shared purpose, that shared vision, the shared leadership, because that's what makes everybody work and not worry about hours, not worry about overtime. They care about the purpose of that company.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Great.
I just wanted to add
Sure.
one thing there, sorry. But I think there's a really big difference between motivation and inspiration. And so a lot of the time now, everyone is so motivated. It's like, how can I get these numbers and how can I break these numbers from last year? And that's like the whole purpose of the foundation of the business is based on the motivation of how can we just keep getting better, which is great, the productivity lines, but how are people coming into the office? Do they feel motivated or do they feel inspired to be there? Because when it comes to inspiration, that is the key source of what is going to allow them to be there every single day and feel connected to the vision, to the purpose, and there's a full frequency of alignment there. And we were talking about this earlier of that truth frequency. You can tell when someone's bullshitting, right? Like you can fully feel that energy. It is not the same as someone that is fully in alignment, fully preaching they're walking the talk, you know, they're fully in that alignment, and that is what is that inspiration, and how are you showing up as a leader to inspire versus the motivation for that?
Wow. Well said. Well said. Well said. And you know, it's interesting you mention that, because when I think about inspiration and motivation, I'm really inclined to think about how that relates to when you're coaching, right? Are you motivating or you're inspiring, right? And I think it's important that we distinguish that, because the leaders in this room here are probably wondering, well, how do I coach my team, right? How do I do that? And I think it's important to motivate them and then also to inspire them at the same time. So I think the inspiration comes in with the presence that you create, right? You have the presence, and the presence is what inspires them. What you say, how you show up on time, how you interact with them. The time you take to invest in them becomes inspiration, because I say, man, I want to be like that dude over there or that guy over there, right? So that's where that comes in. But the motivation then obviously is how you then talk to them, say, hey, guess what? I'm going to compensate you, or I'm going to give this reward and all those things. Some people are not motivated by reward, right? But we got to find out what those motivators are when you're doing that coaching. Great insight there. So, Mike, why don't we get to you? How does the transformative power of coaching, mentoring network work in your environment?
Well, just listening to these conversations today, I'll go with my experience.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest things I've found through any generation at work now is that people must feel valued.
Yes.
Their input must feel valued. I think they feel valued within that corporate structure. Then the motivation will come.
Okay.
But that, for me, at the moment, is people don't see value there.
Absolutely.
Company. My background, I was in law and stepped out of it over 45 years ago. I went, did structure of thought, which was very important, and that's still important in regards to the corporate arena. I then went into a theatre school in France, structure of behavior, which is a very different principle. And I learned very quickly how little I regards my parts that I sometimes knew, parts that were unknown to me. But they taught it in reaction to other people, and those other people were from different cultures and different age groups from around the world. And that was interesting because our coaches and our mentors put to us that what you're saying and what's being received can be two different things. And a lot of the times they are. We see it in the corporate world now with different generations. We see it in regards to different hierarchies in companies. And they then taught us to create models of behavior and emulate, copy other models. That was very instructive because we had to then create models that would fit us with other people. And we learned by trial and error to do this. And it was extraordinary to realize that those models could vary and be fluid, whoever the personalities were then dealt with. That type of theory I've taken back when I was invited back into the corporate world with global financial houses who had similar problems with their C-suite, who are losing traction in their coaching and mentoring their regional and country heads. And the problem was putting down one template, then construct that, and then create their own models of coaching and mentoring in various countries that they were delivering to. And it has made them faster, and it's made them more fluid in getting down and making a connection, truthful, with their staff very quickly. And the interesting thing that's come back from that is the value proposition. The person there who is within that corporation because their input is being actually heard and seen for the first time. They don't feel that they're going through. So that's been transformative for the leaders in recognizing the differences. I've heard all this week about the different generations, the different bandwidths from generation. To me, it's not so much a generation problem. I think the problem of employees, a lot of the time through my experience, is really boiling down to their unique personality. And that's the thing that we're missing a lot of the time with at this moment. This is what we've been is looking at that individual and seeing the individual differences that we can benefit from.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Michael. It's very intriguing how you mentioned value, right? And I think as leaders, we always have to think about the value that we are placing on each and everybody that is part of our team, right? And that is where you know how best to mentor them to be able to make them excel there, to rise up to their level of influence. But we always have to remember, though, that as leaders, there's what we call the leadership lid, right? If they're only going to rise up only as far as to your level as a leader, okay, so valuing people comes in to play with along those lines as well, so people can rise up to their own occasion. Thank you for sharing. So, Brian, how about you? Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about the transformative power of coaching and mentorship and the impact that you're making in your business?
Okay. Love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Brian Barrera. I am CEO for LC Innovation. There's usually three questions people ask me when they first meet me. The first question is, what do you do? I tell them that I'm an executive leadership consultant. The second question is, what do you do again? Executive leadership consultant. I literally consult executives, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, startups on understanding leadership characteristics, leadership strategies, their leadership style, right? And how to intertwine that with vision, how to intertwine that with cultural awareness. And I can show how it really affects your bottom line. It's very, very simple. It's by getting a pulse for your organization. It's by walking that floor. It's by talking to the employees. It's by seeing who talks to the employees, right? I've been in manufacturing facilities before where I see that no one says thank you to the janitor, where no one says thank you to anybody. And they're just so busy, late to every single meeting. That gives you a very good pulse of an organization and what kind of company they are. And I've seriously seen people not acknowledge a janitor, someone cleaning up, someone helping. You know, I've seen that, and that tells me what kind of company it is. Simple artifacts in that nature. But if you notice, if you walk that floor and you see the way people act and you see how motivated they are, if you see how much they're talking to everybody and working with everybody, if you see that, then once you start looking at your financial analysis, you can really see, you can attribute it to if they're profitable or not. I've done financial analysis before, and I could literally see what's going on without even seeing that financial analysis. I can see what's going on the floor. If they're messy, what's going on. But for the most part, what really interests me about this conversation, transformational leadership, transformational power, is what we're already discussing, what we're already talking about. We live in and the third question was, people pay you for that? That's the third question, right? So yeah, but jumping back into transformational leadership, it's really understanding that the society we live in today, it's been going on for so long, for centuries now, we've been treating employees like crap. And we really have. You know, you could look at it any which way you want, but we have been treating employees like crap. And I've seen this firsthand. I've seen firsthand how a person owns a company and owns it for 40 years, and they have that same employees. The turnover ratio is very, very, very low. They have the same employees for about 20, 30, 40 years. And then all of a sudden, the kids start to run it, or they sell it off, and that person gets left there. And now, instead of knowing as a business owner, man, you know what? This person broke their back for me for 40 years. Instead of remembering that, they're brand new. So instead what they do is they look at the employees and they're just like, hey, man, that guy's a workers' comp issue right there. That person's a workers' comp issue. They're going to cost me a lot of money. And that's the way a lot of people see it now. So now what we're seeing in society is we're seeing those people have kids and have grandkids, and they're learning from their parents and they're learning from their grandparents. So further to what we're talking about, if you're going to run your business and you're running it effectively and you're going to really want to make a profit, you now have to have a vision. You now have to really make a common purpose for all the employees. And a lot of it has to do with their personality as well. Don't forget that part. It's so crucial. But that's what really motivates, is having that vision and putting that on paper, making a real mission statement, a real vision statement, instead of just blah, 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 something that ChatGPT probably created for you. Because we know that's happening.
Wow.
Right? So,
Yeah.
It's interesting. Well, you know what? I'm so intrigued by this vision. I've always talked about, whenever I have people, CEOs, whoever wants to start a business, and they say, well, how do I really get started? I always tell them about that vision piece of it. Because as a CEO, you got to have that strategic vision. If you're going to coach or mentor your team, what is the vision? It's not just about a statement on a wall, right? You got to start with the vision. Where do you want to end up as an organization, as a leader? Okay, and that gives you that strategic view for everybody. The janitor you talked about needs to know what the vision is. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody was asked, the janitor was asked, what are you doing here? And Nase says, well, I'm helping put a man on the moon, right? Imagine that. Mm-hmm. So that's the vision, right? But then what comes with that is the mission. What you're doing on a daily basis to ensure that that vision is attained, and then ultimately your values. The values drive the mission. The mission drives the vision. And so, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Also important is these are extremely important things. But what's also very, very important is when developing your mission is don't just have the executive levels make your mission statement, make your vision. Involve the whole company. Involve everybody in part of that. Involve them to be part of how the mission statement is. Involve them, your organizational structure and how you use your tools, what tools you use, and what your platform is. Involve everybody, because when people become part of creating that vision, first of all, you may not know everything every beat. I'm not the smartest man in the thing. My wife is much smarter than me. But and so when we're doing a household, we lay out our every mission statements are very good, visions are very good, but involve everybody, because they have different slant on things.
Yes.
We all, even on this panel, we all have different experiences, different things. So when we were developing this talk, he was like, "Hey, give me 2 questions," and then we evolved what this whole panel is out of the 2 questions that he came to us and asked us to develop. So
Awesome.
Just on that, we, with the global companies and their vision statements, we would go to the different countries that they were operating in to see how they were implementing such visions. And it was interesting in regards to Africa as compared to South America, Asia, and Middle East, how everyone from those different cultures came up with a different answer
Yes.
how to implement.
Absolutely.
That shocked the C-suite in regards to how this was now going to be implemented. So then each country, when we dig a little deeper, each country then had a different mission as to actually how to accomplish the vision. It all had to be read, seen, and by management. But management had to say this was the way for example, the African nations to actually pursue this. And this is the difference in the South American companies to pursue this. So unless they'd had that question down the line to the actual team members, they would have gone ahead, as they'd had been, and this was costing them the bottom line. They would have gone ahead with one template to achieve that, and it was already costing them a lot of money. So these questions and questioning and going down to the team member level to see how this was going to be enacted, absolutely important.
That's great. As we are kind of dwindling down our time here, I want to make sure I give the audience a chance to ask questions as well, regards to coaching, mentoring, and peer networks. But I'd like to have Samantha and then also Christabel just share a little bit about how leaders, female leaders in organizations, can make an impact on coaching and mentoring in the organizations. I think that's important for our audience. Just a few minutes, and then after that, we'll turn it over to the audience to ask questions. Samantha, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, earlier I mentioned that in terms of being assertive, argumentative, a leader, those qualities often are not encouraged in girls. And I have also had my share of coming across as a little bit too much. So actually what I implemented in a leadership development program with a UC Berkeley student organization is specifically how to poke holes in someone's argument. They're called logical fallacies. You learn them in speech and debate. Unfortunately, I never did speech and debate, but learning how to specifically, like, not argue by talking over people or kind of barking at people until they quiet down. It's mainly like if someone is speaking and if there's something untrue or illogical about what they're saying, you can point out very specific things. So at least for a woman's impact in coaching and mentoring, I think it is necessary to encourage people to be strategically assertive. I feel like having like a loud voice and having influence like that, it's great, but the most effective form of it is to do it in a super calculated way. Words are science. That's what I've learned through a lot of my classes, especially in law. What you say should be exactly what you intend, not a synonym. 2 plus 2 is 4. It's not 1 more than 3. The same can be applied to words. I feel like at least that's how I've learned to get around coming across that way. So
Great, thank you.
Poke one hole at a time.
And Christabel, really fast, that way we can give the audience a chance. How about you, as far as from a female perspective?
Yeah, I fully believe that women are actually here to lead, not just the mentoring, coaching, leadership, but actually just in life. I think as a collective, in this moment of time, I think before there was a time where men we're there. And don't get me wrong, like the masculine energy is there to be the provider, the protector, to lead. But I think right now, as a collective in this timeline, women are here to actually lead by this figure of power and this figure of accepting what is actually required for the men to step into their highest power as well. And when we are accepting a certain level of respect or a certain level of that integrity that is within us, we're not dimming our light, we're not lowering our standards, we are actually keeping ourselves at this level of, and it's our sacred responsibility to actually follow through with that commitment to self and that devotion to self and what it is that we're actually here to provide for, and allowing the masculine to almost like sneakily, I would say, of just allowing them to then come and step forth to provide that container for us to then be. So I think that, yeah, sorry,
Great.
We're on a time.
Questions, please. Yes. Yes, please. Step up to the mic if there is one. Is that one? Okay.
Is there a mic for questions?
No? Okay.
Okay. So just,
Yeah, you can use that. There you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So first, thank you so much for a thoughtful discussion. It was very inclusive and a lot of diverse perspectives, so just want to call that out. I'm Jasmine Matapali, the Data Love Co. I wanted to ask a question for anybody, but it's based on something that you said, Brian, which was that, we're coming out of a time where people were hopping from company to company over the course of, over every couple of years. And the thing is, I think that still tends to be happening in certain industries, like the tech industry springs to mind. And many of my mentees, there's this saying that, people don't leave companies, they leave managers,
bosses, yeah.
leave bosses. And one of the themes that I've been seeing is that people don't feel that their managers, that their bosses are invested in their progression, that they're invested in their development.
Yeah.
And so there's one of the things they're seeking, that inspiration, is a manager, a boss that cares. So I was wondering if anybody has any recommendations for how leaders can implement a system of progression, investment in development, in mentorship programs within their organization.
No, yeah, I think the first thing is, thank you for that question. Great question. I think the main thing is to understand what kind of leader you are first. Before we get into the training, what kind of leader you are, and that's what I do. I dissect it, but I give them all the different characteristics, the styles that there is out there. And the main one is transformational leadership and transactional leadership, right? Transformational is, obviously training someone, transforming their career into something beyond what their wildest dreams were. And the other one is transactional. Transactional is more like, here's your review, here's your paper, here's my feedback. But at the same time, we need those transactional leaders as well. Because sometimes some people do want to go to work and they want to be told what to do. Because they might have a second job or they might have another career. And sometimes they like that. Sometimes they're okay with that. But sometimes when transactional leaders, they're very good at keeping track of, I coached this person 3 times already. I coached them 5 times. I sent them to school. I told them, like, if you go through school, if we pay for this, you can get a promotion, right? Some transformational leaders aren't like that. Sometimes they just watch from afar. But if you understand what kind of leader you are first, I think then you can create that whole awesome program to train your employees and, empower them and uplift them.
Great. Did that answer your question? Hopefully. Okay, good. Any other question?
a question here.
Yes. One more question. Okay.
I'll grab your lane.
I'll keep it short. Now, this was an amazing, informative, educational panel discussion. Thank you very much. I have a specific question that, yes, within the organization, the transformative power of mentoring, coaching, yes. But look at us here. We are largely leaders from different organizations. Here, too, the power of mentoring and coaching is huge, but usually that doesn't come free. We pay for it. The power of peer networks, on the other hand, is a voluntary thing that we put together. And I'm curious what your opinion is. How can we use peer networks to make a break in established segments of the market where, as a startup or a smaller organization, we want to make a breakthrough in a new market? What is your opinion? Group like
I thank you for that question, first of all, and I really do believe networking and networks in general is it's everything. Your network is your net worth, and I know that we've heard that all the time, but it can literally be, as long as you are keeping track of where that you're actually going and like who are the people that you need to connect with, and not even making it about them, but making it about, or not making it about you, but making it about them, how you can add value to each interaction that you have, and just building relationships. Like, relationships are literally everything when it comes to business. And like, I started my business last year, and through support and through just because I've been networking for the past two, three years, now I'm connected to this international demographic of people that are just there to following my journey, supporting me, knowing all parts of my life, and been able to see the transformational growth for me as a human. And that's the same for everyone, I think. I think everyone has this core, like, untapped human connection that is here. It's everywhere around us. And to be able to access that, it's free, right? And this is where you'll find coaches, you'll find mentors, you'll find all these people within your peer networks. And it's becoming that balance between the student and the teacher, and going into every room as the student, and really taking away your ego and really absorbing as much, and being able to really speak from your heart centered, and really be able to kind of navigate that in order to build, your reputation, but not even just that, but just who you are as a person as well.
Yeah, and I can also, you can say that people need to learn how to network. Most people don't know how to network. People either go to a networking event and they're just a wallflower to stand behind, and they don't talk to anybody. Other people go there and they have like their business cards, and they fly them out like my flyers are all over here. And they just fly them out, and then people collect business cards, and then they put the cards in their pockets, they go home, they put it on their desk, and then 80% of people who collect business cards never follow through. You need to call those people and keep calling them and connecting them. And when you connect with them, don't just call them and say, hey, how you doing? Go on their LinkedIn profile. Find 5 things about them and engage them. Engage them on what interests them, because they don't care about you. Absolutely. They care about themselves. Everyone cares about themselves. So engage with them, and then you'll expand your networking opportunities.
Outstanding. So that concludes
I just got to add, one
We-
part of networking I would always recommend is it's a reciprocal arrangement. So you're reaching out to them. Yep. What can you also offer them?
That's right.
In return. And generally, when you offer something in return, the connection starts.
Absolutely. That's great. I know that we all wrapped up here. We're out of time. So I just want to give everybody a chance to just talk about how you can get in touch with them. And that way, for those who are viewing us online, they know. And then for those of you here, we can connect afterwards, whether it's business card or not. And for me, globalreachleaders.com. Globalreachleaders.com. You can always find me on LinkedIn as well. With that said, over to you, Christabel, as we end.
Christabel Joseph, Christabel.Joseph on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and highperformers.co is my website if you guys are planning on starting your business. Let me know.
Samantha Nelson. So just search my name on LinkedIn. Samantha.sono.nelson@gmail.com or contact @bridgetojustice.initiative.org.
Great. I'm Jeffrey Weiss. You can reach me at preparednesstv.info. That's preparednesstv.info. You can also call me at 818-624-4242. That's my phone number, 818-624-4242. And if you're here, you can take one of these purple cards and get with us. And you're next.
Brian Barrera, LC Innovation, lcinnovation.org. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. Love LinkedIn. Got some cards on me if you want to meet. And let's roll.
Michael Lindsay Simpson on LinkedIn. The company is evolvesingapore.com.sg. Thank you.